we are at Jack Koefoot's. $4.19. Friends of Scouting, Semper Fi. Hey, how are you?
Welcome home. Come on in.
Thank you. Just want to take a picture here of your doorbell. I'll make some pictures for the guys.
And if you take your shoes off.
I'll be more than happy to. And how are you?
Well, yesterday I was perfect. Today I'm having trouble with my right back.
You're right, what?
Back.
Okay.
It comes and goes.
Well, smile, everybody. Here, I'm going to take your picture. Okay, very good. Gotta say this. Your mother wears combat boots. That's one of your favorite sayings.
Absolutely.
Yes. I don't know what it means, but you used to say that all the time.
Right, and we were a combat outfit.
Okay, and rain, shine, snow, or sleet, we will go.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Make yourself comfortable and we'll talk for a while.
We can talk as long as you want, Jack.
Good. The restaurant doesn't open until 1/2 and we can get there anytime after that.
That's okay.
Give you a tour of the house, too.
That's okay. Now, you don't mind me taking your pictures?
Yeah, I realize it takes a piece of my soul each time, but I'm not worried about that.
It is.
I'm 88 and 1/2 years old.
That's pretty young, Jack.
Well, yesterday I was young. Today my back is bothering me.
My mother-in-law, 101.
Sure.
101.
Help me pin down when you were in the post.
Okay. 65, 64, 63, 62. Okay. 8th grade, 1961.
I was married in 1960.
Okay.
So you joined the post after I was married, right?
I think so, because you used to bring her on. Well, wait a minute now.
Sure, I used to bring her on.
And the canoe trips and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Did you ever bring her before?
No, not till after we were married.
Then that's when. Okay, that's when.
That brings back a lot of wonderful things to my mind. So if that's when you joined, you were in the post until before she died, because she didn't die until 1970.
Right, I left in 1965.
Okay.
1965. And these are the days, if you will, of course, of Al Love, who brought me in. Dan Haas, okay.
I used to holler at for vulgarities from time to time.
He told me, by the way, I don't know, remember I've communicated with Dan and Al, and he told me that he quit tobacco 10 years ago. So I don't know if you yelled at him or not for that, but anyway, he told me to tell you he quit.
That wasn't something that we had anything to do with.
Well, I don't know, but maybe he thinks so. I don't know. John McKay was another one.
Al said he had the hard time trying to find John McKay.
I don't know where he is now.
Al said he was southern Illinois someplace.
Okay. I met John McKay to get more in line. I became friends with John McKay at Philmont Scout Ranch. You couldn't go. You had one of your older scouts who had become a U.S. Marine who was on leave. And he took us to Philmont. Okay, and John McKay was running around with a butterfly net all the time trying to catch butterflies.
You don't remember the year you were at Philmont, do you?
Uh, 62, 63. You weren't there.
Okay.
Al Love was not there. You guys may have been doing something else. I know that Al and Dan went to Germany. I don't know if that was
Oh, yeah, that was in early 50s. They went over on a troop ship,
a troop ship.
free of charge.
Okay.
You see, at that time, the United States Air Force would fly scout troops free of charge from an airport near St. Louis to Munich, Germany. All they
Okay.
had to do was say, we're an organized troop, we're registered, and we want to go. And they say, okay, you show up at such and such a time, we'll fly you over, and we'll tell us when you want to come back.
God, that's the good old days, isn't it?
Yes, but when we called in to do it, Al Love was the president of the post. I remember distinctly, we got a letter from the Air Force saying we don't do this sort of stuff anymore.
Okay.
And so he called my house, and my wife answered the phone and gave it to me. And he said, should I write him and tell him we want to go anyway? I said, sure, why not? So about 2 hours later, it must have been a Saturday or a Sunday,
Okay.
he called me back and he's on the phone. He said, okay, I said, okay, I said, okay. It turns out that the Air Force couldn't do it anymore because the airlines were claiming they were paying passengers off of their
Okay.
airplanes.
Okay.
So the Air Force made some arrangements so that we could go over on a troop ship free of charge. So Al wanted to know, should he call them? And he called them. And he called back and said, okay, he said, okay. So the Navy, who runs the Army troop ships, had called him back and said, all we have to do is let him know when we want to go about and where we want to go and how long we'd be there, whatever that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And so it turned out that we could get a troop ship at a certain time and date, but we had to show at the dock in New Jersey
All right.
at the time that the ship was supposed to sail. So the guys got together and they talked it over. We got 8 guys to agree they wanted to go. However, how are they going to get to New York, to New Jersey? 2 of the parents whose boys were going volunteered with gas at 23 cents a gallon. They didn't even charge anybody to take the guys out there. We waited until we got the notice, be at the dock at such and such a time and date. We did our timing, figured we could make it overnight in 8 or 9 hours, something like that. And so the parents agreed to leave here at the time that would get them at ship sailing time in New Jersey. They drove all night.
Wow.
2 cars, each one had a mother and a father, so there were 2 drivers. In each case, the boy of the son of the pair that drove was in the car that they were with, and so were some of the other guys. So it cost us nothing. The parents didn't even charge us gas money. They said, no, don't worry about it. We're going to call this part of our vacation. We'll get a motel right near the ship. After we dump the kids off that morning, we'll go to the motel and go to sleep, because they wouldn't have slept all night. And then we'd go up to Niagara Falls and go up to New York State and tool their way back eventually to Chicago as part of their vacation.
Cool.
So it cost the guys absolutely nothing. They took the troop ship over. Now, do you want to hear this story? Because it goes on forever.
It's up to you, Jack.
Well, I love to tell stories.
Okay.
They got over on the troop ship to Hamburg, Germany, which is up north. Well, they had originally arranged to travel in Europe with a British scout troop that I had been in touch with for many years. Met the guy the first time I was over after the war.
Okay.
And his outfit every so often went over to Switzerland and did some hiking. He said, "Okay," in writing, he said, "Okay, we'll schedule a trip this summer." This was well in advance, and we can meet up and you can go with us. Well, that was if we were going to meet them in Switzerland after flying to Munich. But it turns out we didn't fly to Munich. We took a ship to Hamburg. So the guys discussed the matter and we corresponded in writing with the British Scouts. And the upshot was they would get off the ship in Hamburg, get a train ride down to the Channel, which they could pay for ahead of time, and train fares was peanuts in those days. And get down to the Channel, take the Channel ship across, take the boat train from the Channel up to London, and meet the British Scouts at Victoria Station. All scheduled. And so that's what happened. The guys stayed in England for a couple of days just to get settled in, and then they joined the British Scouts back on the Channel train, crossed the Channel, the train into Switzerland, hiked all over Switzerland and Austria. Wait till you hear this. Into Austria, back through Liechtenstein, into Switzerland, then back on the train actually our guys got off at Paris, but I'll tell you why about that. While they were coming back through Liechtenstein, they were stopped at the border from Liechtenstein into Switzerland. And the guy came up, some official, and said, "You're scouts." "Yes, we're scouts," because they were in uniform. "Would you come up to the palace and we have somebody we'd like you to meet?" The palace was only a mile away. So they hiked down to the palace and went inside. Guess who meets them at the front door, so to speak? The Crown Prince of Liechtenstein, who is the chief cheese of the whole country.
Wow.
He says, "Hi, scouts, I'm chief scout of my country. And we're glad to have you here. Let me give you a tour of the palace," and all this kind of stuff. When it was over, he called Al Love aside. He said, "Al, I've often wanted to get the straight information on scouting. I can get all the literature from all of the headquarters all over the world, but I don't want that. I want you to correspond with me, if you will, and we can talk about scouting." Al says, "Sure." And he gets back on, takes back okay, now we're back to Paris. Our guys got off at Paris because there was a train that went straight from Paris to Hamburg, and they would save some money. So they said goodbye to the British Scouts, went back up to Hamburg, caught the ship back to the United States. We didn't know how soon it was going to go. They say it would take 5 or 6 days. Well, nobody's going to wait for them at the dock, at the ship dock. So it was agreed that they would take the ship back and then take the train from New Jersey to Chicago.
Okay.
Their parents could meet them at the station, or they could take the elevator home. That's what they did. Al Love kept correspondence with the Crown Prince of Liechtenstein on a one-to-one basis until the Crown Prince died.
Okay, that's super.
That
stopped it all.
But isn't that an amazing story?
It kind of explains why Mr. Love has the job that he does, traveling all over.
Well, he was vice president of the Motorola Corporation. In fact, he was the guy who was on our Alaska expedition in 1960, which was before your time. Mm-hmm. And he enjoyed Alaska so much, he said, "I'm going back and live there." And he did. He went back and lived in Nome, Alaska, and became scout executive for the district, which includes half of Alaska. I don't know how he ever got to see the outposts and the explorer posts and the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts. I don't know how he did it, but he did. He lived up there for a number of years, working for Motorola. Then they shifted him back to the States, and he ended up living, I think, in Washington State now. Yeah. I've been in touch with him. I hear from him pretty regularly. He's a couple of times tried to organize reunions, but not successful. Primarily because guys like you get jobs and move. And if you ask 5 or 6 years later, nobody remembers.
That's true. That's true.
Thanks for listening to that story.
It's a great story, Jack. It was a
Favorite
great,
stories.
great story.
I'm still connected with Troop 16 here in Evanston. They call it 916 because we're 2 16s, and our Evanston 16 must have lost a coin toss because they're 916. But I call them 16. Still work with them. I award badges at their Court of Honor. Last summer, they invited me to their picnic, which is also a Court of Honor, out in the forest reserves in August. And they let me tell a story. And I told them the story that I just told you. And when I finished the story, I looked at my audience and I was astounded. They were all looking straight at me. Nobody had their heads turned. They were just so entranced by the story that it made me feel pretty good. So I've asked them, would you like to hear another story next year? Yeah, we would. I said, well, I think I'll get ready to tell you the story about the Alaska trip, which is another story entirely. Let me tell you a vignette on it. Going up, we stopped at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. And it was a military base, and you had to write ahead of time and get permission to stay there and all that sort of stuff, which we did. So that when the Alaska trip, there were 3 cars, 18 guys, 17 scouts, and 3 adults. The 3 adults were me, Raj Hunt. You didn't know Raj Hunt, did you? He was assistant advisor.
No.
And another guy who volunteered and got registered with the scouts, which he had to do. The 3 cars pulled in to Malmstrom Air Force Base after dark, which was a little late, but we were expected it that day. They stopped us just inside the gate, said, park your car over there, just like that. Park your car over there, cars. Get in that bus. So we got on the bus. They said, bring your gear, all your gear with you. They drove us to a barracks. They said, okay, go inside the barracks, turn to your right, draw your bedding, take your bedding to the rooms you're assigned, and report back here in 5 minutes. And that's all they said. So we did what we were told, came back, got in the bus again, took it to the mess hall. We got free mess, not free mess, mess was, evening meal was 50 cents. So we paid the 50 cents, had the meal. When we were finished, they said, back in the bus, to the barracks. Okay, we'll pick you up in the morning. You are not allowed to leave this barracks. Goodbye. Well, okay, they gave us all the information we needed. They weren't mean and nasty, but they sure weren't anything barely friendly. So we got up the next morning, there's the bus, took us to where the cars were. Oh no, they took us first to breakfast. Not only could you get breakfast for 25 cents, but you could make yourself a free lunch, which we of course did, and got on back into our cars and off we went. We checked with them to be sure they knew when we were coming back, because we had a schedule, and we'd been keeping to the schedule, expected to do so. So on the way back, they expected us to stop there again. Okay, we go to Alaska, we come back from Alaska. We pull in to the Malmstrom Air Force Base. It's daylight this time, it's morning. There was about 6 or 8 guys waiting for us. And they said, you're 804, 2804 from Chicago? Yeah. Welcome. Boy, are we glad to see you. Come on. And they took us back to the barracks and they got all stuff set up and they did all the kind of stuff that you'd expect them to do. Took us to the mess hall, had breakfast. They said, now we're going to do something. We're going to give you a tour of this base. So they took us on a tour of the base. We got to see the two pairs of pilots, four guys, walking within arm's length of one another everywhere. There'd be four over here and four over there. They were going someplace, each one on something other purpose. You looked at the airfield, and there's three or four hangars, with the front and back doors open, and inside is a jet airplane with the engine running. Oh, that's interesting. Then it took us up in the tower. We're up in the tower, and they're showing us this and that and the other thing, when all of a sudden the officer in charge of kicking us around says, "All you scouts against the wall now." Well, 2804 does what they're told. They got against the wall right away with no argument, no delay, no fussing. And then we watched the guys do what they were doing. We could see out the window a brown painted Minnesota National Guard painted on the side, airplane, twin engine job, was landing on the field. When the plane gradually got to a stop, two Jeeps came out. Each one had a machine gun on the front of it, pardon me, on the back of it, but that was the front because they backed in. One got right smack in front of the plane, the other one got right even with the door. And so the landing steps come down, and four guys get down. They're not in uniform. And the guys from the base walk up and they look at the papers they're shown, and finally one of the officers gives a signal. And so the two Jeeps leave, and the guys that got off the plane get in the Jeep with the officers, and they go somewhere. Then the tower that we were in relaxed. The guy said, "Let me tell you what story you just watched." The Arizona National Guard plane landed here because the governor of the state is in the plane, and he's got a conference to go at Glacier National Park. And he chose to land here, but they didn't get a clearance in advance. So we had no idea who they were. We were just as ready to shoot them down as we would a mad dog. But they were able to convince, talking over the intercom, the speakers, and eventually landed under these surveillances and were cleared to go on about their business. Said, "It was a false alarm, but you guys sure saw how your country's being protected. That could have been a Russian plane with a bomb in it. All kinds of things could have been that it wasn't. But," he said, "want you to know how well you conducted yourselves. Thank you very much." Took us back down and showed us whatever else they showed us, and we had lunch there. And we met the local scout troop, which was a bunch of little kids, because we were all explorers. And had supper there, made our package lunches for the next day with breakfast, and left. And as we left, they said, "We want to thank you. You have really shown us what a scout troop can do. It was a pleasure to have you here, and we hope you come back." Well, we didn't expect to do that. But we did make a number of friends, because a year later, two of the pilots that we had met who were flying jets out of that base came to Chicago and looked us up. We had lunch with them.
Cool.
It's just the friendship that we made, that the guys could show, that made me so proud of the Explorer Post that you couldn't, just amazing. But it's always was that way. I thought that Explorer Post was the finest thing from beginning to end of any organization I belonged to.
Well, do me a favor. When did you start it, or start it, 2804, and when did you leave?
Okay, I started it right after World War II. I got back in my scout troop in Chicago, Bowling Green Congregational Church. And I wasn't really satisfied with the Boy Scouts anymore, but I saw there was several older guys. I said, "How would you guys like to start an Explorer Post?" Okay, so we started an Explorer Post. At first, it was just senior scouts in effect. Although we had some rules, we had rules that if you joined this Explorer post, you had to pass Star Scout. Absolutely required. You know, nobody's pushing you, and you don't lose out any of the activities while you're working on Star Scout. But you got to work on Star Scout, and everybody in the post will help you. If you're going on a camping trip with the post, and you haven't got second-class cooking yet, bring along what you need. You'll get a chance to pass it.
Well, as I recall now, because the highest I ever went was Star.
Yep.
I think it was 6 or 7 merit badges.
It was 5.
5? Okay.
It's 6 now, but it was
Oh,
5.
5, okay.
I have a grandson who is, as I speak, passing Star. Well, in other words, right now.
How old is he?
14.
Oh, super.
Yeah. He delayed a little bit. He could have got it sooner, but he didn't decide it. But he's decided now, and so he's working on it.
As I recall, it's as many. In other words, make your way up the Eagle. It was basically, of course, a lot of recommendations, but there were certain required merit badges you need. I forget what the total is, but there was 21. But there were certain ones you had to do, and then I guess it was like going to college or something. You could pick other courses you wanted to.
I have been personally very dissatisfied with the Boy Scouts. It's a sissy outfit. We used to have camping trips with 2 adults. Well, our trip to Alaska had 3 adults. Philmont, just 2 adults. Now they want all the parents they can get on all of the campouts and all of the hikes they take, because they're worried about having unsatisfactory adult leaders show up and take advantage of the little kids. That's their reason, and that's modern society. But I'm sorry to see it, because we were developing leadership. Guys would be able to take and run things by themselves, like Al Love on the trip to England.
Yeah, well, as I recall, basically it was just you or
Yeah.
maybe another father or something like that to fill in. Or in the case where I went to the Philmont, there was a Marine on leave that was one of your Explorer Scouts, and it was a fine trip.
Yeah.
And definitely we were on our own, but that's how you learn. That's how you learn.
Philmont now has buildings at every campsite. You have to use the latrines that are built there. You can't dig your own. There's always somebody nearby, because they have 3 or 4 times the number of people hiking. They charge a fabulous amount of money now, several $100s for the 8-day trip or 12-day trip, whatever it is. And you don't have mules anymore. Do you have mules?
Yes. Yeah.
That was a different world. It was a different world.
As I remember, the only thing that was really provided for us, and it was done in a nice way, is that when you got to the next camp, in other words, you had to police the area all the time.
Oh, all the time.
But when you got to the next area, you had I'm going to call the dehydrated food. You had dog biscuits. The reason I call them dog biscuits is there's nothing to go stale about them. Okay, they were stale when they were made. Okay, and you had the pots and pans all clean for you, which were basically cast iron for I'm going to call it cowboy kind of cooking. You know, the cast what do they call it, crock pots or something like that. But they're not really crock pots. But anyway, then you added your water. I remember everything was dehydrated. And I was on the cleanup committee, I wasn't on the cooking committee, so I don't really know how they made it. But then I would just scrub the stuff to death, okay, to get it all clean. And then you'd police the area again and move out to the next one.
Do you remember going up to where you panned for gold?
I don't think we did that, Jack. I don't recall it.
That was one of our Philmont trips. And,
I mean, this is one you definitely were not on. You were not on this
I was
film.
on this one. my older son happened to be the expedition leader that day. And we were supposed to get up to Cypher's Mines.
Okay.
That's where they pan for gold. We were supposed to get up to Cypher's Mine as quick as we could. So my son says, don't bother hanging the food between two trees. Just run it up that other tree there. No bear will ever climb that high. So said my son, and he's the boss. So they did what they were told. And off we went up the hill to Cypher's Mine. We're down in the creek panning gold, and a troop goes by us, and they holler down to us, hey boy, you want to see the guys down the hill? Their food's all over the place, the bears got it. The troop down the hill is our outfit. We immediately stopped panning, went down the hill, and sure enough, a bear had shinnied all the way up the tree, got a hold of the bag of food, threw it down or opened it up so it emptied, and had eaten just about everything of value. We had some bread and some margarine and some cheese. It was all we were able to salvage from there. Well, we're not going to hike all the way down to the base camp to get resupplied. We just went on back up to Cypher's Mine to finish there. Went wherever from there, other places, until we got to a place where you could get food resupplied, which wasn't the base camp, it was somewhere. It might have been.
See, when I went, the food was at each camp, so you didn't lug anything with you.
See, we had to.
Yeah. So when did you leave the 2804?
Okay.
What year,
My
at
wife
least?
died in 70. That left me with two little boys, 5 and 8, to raise. I knew I could not do anything anymore in the scouting. I had to raise my boys, because up till that time, she was able to take care of the kids while I went.
Mm-hmm.
So I resigned from exploring. I turned it over to somebody else, but it didn't work. Well, of course it couldn't work. It didn't have the philosophy that we had.
Well, the only reason I was in your 2804, Jack, is that I was at St. Ida's, where I was a Cub Scout and a Boy Scout. That's as far as it went. And then there was no explorer post anywhere closer than you. Okay, and that's got to be like, I don't know, 10 miles, which is a long way, okay, in the city of Chicago. Okay, so that's how I discovered you. And the only thing I had a problem with was I was a Catholic, and here I am in a Protestant place. I thought I was going to go to hell for sure. That was my major concern.
When I was a Boy Scout, Mount Carmel Church over on Belmont
Yes?
sent somebody over to us that said, we want to start a scout troop. Can we train our boy leaders with you? We said, okay, glad to help you, but promise you will not take any of our Catholic boys back with you when you leave. Oh, well, we certainly won't. Well, of course they did. They were told by their parents that they had to join the Catholic Church at Mount Carmel, which folded up in a couple of years.
Okay.
But we got Catholic, Jewish boys as well as various types of Christians in 804, and we never raised a question in the...
Well, it was definitely a non-denominational church, if you will. In other words, I think you might as well call it a Christian church. That was about it. Okay. This is congregational. I'm not even sure if congregational's a sect of Protestants, you know.
The scouting lasted there until it was 88 years old or some long time, and then it quit because the church was taken over by gay people, which is what it is now.
Well, that whole area
Well, I don't know about the...
went gay for a short time, and I think it's all changed, okay, but let's say from Wellington to Diversey, okay, that became the Newsboys Town or something like that. Now that's all changed, and it's a little bit more regionalized for Boys Town. You've got it around between Foster and Lawrence on Clark Street, and then you have I can call the Roscoe area.
I don't have that problem here in Evanston.
No, no. Well, yeah, these are just minor areas that are in Chicago. Anyway, you're going to give me a tour. I see some old hi-fi equipment there.
Exactly what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm going to start with on your left.
On my left. Okay.
Down the hall, as soon as I get past.
Need a hand here?
No. It's just a matter of getting up.
Now, you here all alone?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. No sons or anything?
Oh, I have a son in Washington, D.C. and a son in Hastings, Nebraska. Now, let's start out with the Boy Scout stuff.
Yeah.
That's all the stuff I've got that you hang around your neck.
Okay, let me back this up. There we go. Okay.
These come from summer camp when I was a little kid.
You're scouting stuff. Okay.
Yeah, it's all my scouting stuff. There's my vigil on my arrow. And that's Cub Scouts, and that's Weevillos Cub Scouts. That's a Catholic award. I don't know how I ever got that. That's my Silver Beaver.
What year did you get the Silver Beaver?
I got my Silver Beaver about 4 months after I got married.
Okay.
And in those days, it was the very first Silver Beaver ever given for non-financial reasons.
Okay.
It only went to people in the district who gave lots of money and they got the badge. But I was one of the first people selected, and it was held at McCormick Place, and the presenter was the chairman of the Northwestern Railroad.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a big deal in those days. My wife got up on the stage with me and all that kind of good stuff.
That's super.
And that also is something else, but that has to do with the science fair at the Museum of Science and Industry.
Okay.
The thing that I like about that is it came with a luncheon that was served like I have never seen or heard before.
All right. Anything important about this stuff here?
Well, yeah, and you're going to hear about that later
Okay.
on. I've got something to give you.
Okay.
I went to the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th International Jamborees in England and took 40 kids over with me with one other adult.
What year was this?
Well, that was 76,
Okay.
and that would be 4 years later, 80, 84, and 88.
Yeah, one on the bottom there. I can't really see. Okay, good. Okay.
Uh,
I don't have a light on this thing, so that one's not going to come out
yeah, I
too
don't
soon.
know. It's the best I can do.
Okay, let's keep moving here.
Okay, let's keep moving, the gentleman says.
Yeah, let's keep
Look
moving on.
in
I'll run out of film.
Dirty in here. That's nails from Hadrian's Wall in England. It
Okay.
was found, and it was given to me by a guy who was given it, and he didn't want it, so I took it. There's stuff that I got when my wife and I were on our wedding trip. There's some pictures I took when I was traveling in Europe.
Is that a Bose radio? You're one of the people
Yeah,
you bought
oh, it's the best radio in the world.
Okay, you bought a Bose radio.
Sure.
My goodness. They're still advertising them. Probably will forever.
Oh yeah, they're good. Okay, as you said, let's move on.
Okay.
This next one is going to surprise you. First, you're going to freeze to death because this is my exercise room. And that's what you're going to look at.
Okay.
And you may even recognize some of them specifically. Do you remember any of the trails you took?
Oh my goodness. Actually, I'm trying to think of the one that almost killed me. It was called the Venture Trail. I think you were involved with it.
Sure.
And we started just at dusk, and I don't think we were done until like 5 o'clock in the morning. And
Is that in Michigan?
God,
Kalamazoo?
it could have been. I mean,
Because that's the one I remember hiking. It was following the slaves' journeys. And why did we hike it at night? Because the slaves would travel at night.
but by the time I got home, I had it on Sunday. I went to church though. I went to church. In fact, all of you guys went to the Congregational Church. I was sleeping in your car. Okay.
That's okay.
And then you dropped me off so I could go to church. Okay. So you guys, you've been on a few trails then.
There's 1,000 miles of hiking there.
My goodness. That's super, Jack. That's
Yeah,
super.
I think so too. As you can see, I'm a reader.
And record albums too?
No,
Oh, no,
I have
those-
video, audio tapes up forward in
Okay.
the chest. That's what I do in my spare time these days. Is read or
Thank you, Jack.
watch videos. When I got in Australia, I learned how to throw it. That's a Nepalese officer's knife that he carries in the back. Unfortunately, it's difficult to withdraw. I tried to get my son to fix it, but he couldn't fix it, so it's easy to withdraw.
Do they both come by and see you every so often?
Oh, regularly. I don't remember turning that
You're one great housekeeper, I'll tell you. Oh my goodness, look at all these remotes. I've never seen so many remotes.
Oh yeah, well, I've got 3 VCRs and 2 television sets. And also a radio.
Why three VCRs? I'm curious.
Well, because I may want to record 2 programs that are being broadcast at the same time. Or there isn't room on one of them for all I want to get.
Okay, but I noticed in your mailbox, when I remember I was here yesterday when the mail person came by, who's a woman, she dropped off a Comcast bill. That means you've got cable
No,
TV.
I throw that away.
You throw that away?
Yeah, do not have it. So
Oh, that's an advertisement you got
That's
then.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also got that archaeology magazine.
So you're still using the antenna that's on your chimney?
That's what all of these things are connected to.
Too. Okay. And what am I looking at here now?
Oh, that's some more of that stuff. This is a trip my cousin and I took. That was my first trip to Europe. We went to England, we went to Germany, went to Portugal, went to Morocco and Tunis, went to Italy, went to Switzerland, all that stuff. Each one is located approximately where it is on the map.
Wow.
And this is when I went to the Brussels World's Fair.
Cool.
I added all the extra stamps just to match it up, but it really was only because of the one in the middle, which is the United States Brussels World's Fair. And there's my last trip. I spent a month in Iran.
And what year was this one?
It says 2005.
Okay.
That was when I not able to travel comfortably through the airports
Nice.
anymore.
Now what
That
is
is a
what is the
genuine-
stereo system here? This has got the 1960s, 70s look to it.
Of course. The top one is plain radio, the middle one is FM, and the bottom one I use to hear old-time radio when it's on
Okay.
Saturdays.
Wow. Okay, you hold on to stuff, Jack.
Oh, sure, and there's some more stuff. I got that in Mexico. Oh, that's my wife and I put that together. That's our wedding trip. Shows all the countries we visited on our wedding trip.
Wow. That is super.
Yep, there's probably fingerprints of hers on the inside of the glass.
Wow. You are sure a great housekeeper, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I have to do that. It's part of my job.
Yeah. You do a good job, Jack.
See this sword here? That's 2,400 years old. It's a
We gotta
Greek
get-
sword that could have been used at the Battle of Messina, or at Marathon, or at Thermopylae.
Wow.
It's old enough to be at any of those. It's guaranteed authentic.
Super.
Yeah, it is. I think so too.
That's great. Not to count all your other
No, that's all
knickknacks.
junk I've collected from place to place and time to time.
Okay, super. Well, you want to start filling our bellies here?
Yes, right. Okay, now wait a minute. Don't have to read it now, but it is for you.
It's for me. Okay.
I know what I have to do. I have to let you out the front door, and then I have to go out the back door.
You go up there. You definitely want hot and spicy soup then.
I didn't tell you, I had cataract surgery 2 years ago, which is why I don't need glasses.
Wow.
I do need glasses to read, though.
I need him to see.
And so did I since I was 8 years old.
What is it?
That's over, that looks like a new purchase. The building's been there. It wasn't as much more schoolable.
It's definitely colorful.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going straight at the light.
Nope, left at the light.
Left at the light. You got it, sir. Your wish is my command.
Straight ahead until you can't go any straighter. Straight ahead.
Okay. It must be Ridge. No, Asbury.
Oh. Straight ahead, straight ahead, straight ahead. The right lane only goes straight ahead from here on.
Okay, so go the right lane?
Yeah, you have to get in the right lane now. But straight ahead.
Straight ahead. Rain, shine, snow, or sleet, I'm going straight ahead. So if you want to say something to Al, Love, or Dan, this is your time to do it, because I'm going to mail him this little video.
Tell Dan that I especially remember his cussing. I'm glad that he doesn't do it anymore.
That's good.
And Al Love, just say, keep up the good work. I've enjoyed contacting with him.
Do you guys send Christmas cards or anything to each other?
You must turn left here.
Okay.
And then at the first opportunity, which just is 50 yards, turn right. In other words, follow that car.
Follow that car. You got it. You got it. That was the only way to go, Jack.
And now you will go straight ahead indefinitely.
Indefinitely. Okay. So when your son's coming down to see again?
Well, one of them is due next month.
Okay.
In March. And I don't know about the other one. The one in March is working on a biography of me.
Cool.
Yeah, I think so too. I have always been a collector of all kinds of things. And when I kick the bucket, it's all going to get thrown out unless somebody takes an interest in it. And I hope my
I've got that thing you gave me to read in my trunk.
I got what?
Your looks like your life history you gave me to read there in your trunk.
No, that's only my scout history.
Oh.
No, it starts out with my mother saying, "The scouts are picking you up tonight, straight ahead." And I say, "I don't want to go." That's how it starts out. So I'm already 12 years old. And it ends when I'm 75, so I've already added 2 years at that end. And only as it's my scout history, it doesn't cover my travels to Europe, except where I traveled with the scouts.
Okay, only scouting.
I'll tell you, the best experiences I've had were those 40-kid troops that I took to England and Belgium and all over England, Scotland, and Wales.
What year was that? Do you remember?
There was 70 was the first one, 76 was the first one, then 80, then 84, and 88. 40 kids every time. The first two, both my sons went to the first two. After that, I left them home because they were too old to go. But they also had jobs by then or away in college. Straight ahead.
Straight as she goes, sir.
Okay, now the next street on the right, turn right. It's down there a ways yet. You'll be seeing it in a second now. Turn right at the street coming up here. These are the two stop signs that I don't think anybody needs to bother about. But I certainly wouldn't tell you that.
Going straight?
Straight ahead.
I'm surprised you just don't plow right through the middle there, Jack.
Yeah,
Heck
that's
with,
happening.
heck with this.
Those are usually filled up with bushes in the summer. Straight ahead.
Okay.
Okay, the next street, turn right. At the next street, turn right.
Yes, sir. Nothing about getting to and from this restaurant as the arrow flies.
Yeah, and pull up here, just a little past the.
Yeah, that's right. That's their for sale sign. You're not for sale,
That's
right?
not for sale. That's political. You can stop right in here.
Right in here?
This is perfect.
Okay.
Good stop. Good stop. I've got this, and I thank you 10,000.
Well, I'll help you out.
No, I don't want any help.
You don't want any help?
No.
You sure, Jack?
Thank you. Hey, thanks again for brightening up the whole year.
You brighten me up too.
The whole year.
I'll stay in touch with you.
Do that. I hope so. I would like to have your name, rank, and serial number.
No problem.
Oh,
That's okay, Jack.
I'm almost out now.
Thank you.
Whoops. Oh.
Be careful.
Yep, right.
Okay.
There you go.
You got it. You had it. Look at this stubborn guy. What a stubborn guy. But you gotta love him. Take care, Jack. God bless you.